They hung her at sunrise. The red sky burned above the colony of New Terra, and cold winds blew across the silent crowd. Every face watched the tall metal pole in the center of the square, where Lyra, the alien girl, stood bound by glowing chains. Her silver skin caught the morning light, and her deep blue eyes looked calm, almost peaceful. But fear lived in every heartbeat around her. She was the first alien to love a human, and for that the colony decided she must die. No one spoke. The guards stood like stone, holding their plasma rifles. The sound of the flags flapping was the only thing that moved. In the front row stood Eli, a young human engineer with messy brown hair and shaking hands. He wanted to scream, to run to her, to break her free, but if he did, he would hang beside her. Lyra's gaze searched the crowd. For one brief moment, her eyes found Eli. A small smile touched her lips, soft, sad, full of understanding. Eli's heart broke. The commander stepped forward, a tall man in a black coat with a golden emblem on his chest. His voice echoed through the speakers. "Lyra of the Thalor species," he said coldly, "you are guilty of treason. You have betrayed your kind by mixing with the human race. Your punishment is death, by exposure." The crowd murmured, but no one dared speak out. Eli's hands clenched into fists. Treason, he thought. She didn't betray anyone. She just loved me. He remembered the first time he met her, near the power fields outside the colony. She was studying the strange light plants that grew in the soil, glowing softly under the twin suns. She spoke gently, curious about everything. She laughed when he showed her how to fix her damaged scanner. That laugh, bright and strange, became his favorite sound. Now that laugh was gone. A cold, mechanical voice announced, "Execution will begin." Lyra looked up at the red sky. "I am not afraid," she whispered. The commander gave the signal. The guards activated the energy field around the pole. A blinding blue light crackled. Electricity danced across the metal. The air smelled like burning ozone. The crowd gasped as the energy surged, wrapping Lyra in glowing light. Eli bit his lip hard to stop himself from shouting. His chest felt like it would explode. He wanted to run, to save her, but soldiers stood everywhere. Lyra's body trembled, but she did not cry. Her voice rose, faint but strong. "You can burn my body," she said, "but you cannot burn love." A hush fell over the crowd. Even the commander hesitated, just for a second. Then the light flashed brighter, too bright to see. When the energy faded, Lyra hung still, her head bowed, smoke rising from the metal. The silence that followed was colder than space. Somewhere in the crowd, a child began to cry. The commander turned and left without a word. People began to walk away slowly, whispering prayers or curses. No one looked at Eli. He stood frozen, staring at the pole. The world around him felt unreal. Only the sound of the wind remained. When the square was empty, Eli walked to the pole. His steps were weak, his throat dry. He looked up at her still face, peaceful now, her eyes closed. He touched the cold metal and whispered, "I'm sorry, Lyra, I couldn't save you." A tear fell, landing on the dust at his feet. Then suddenly a strange thing happened. The pole hummed softly and a low electric sound. For just 1 second, Lyra's eyes flickered open, glowing faint blue. Eli froze. "Lyra?" he whispered. Her lips moved, and barely a breath. He leaned closer. "I'll come back," she whispered. Then her head dropped again and the light faded. Eli's heart pounded. She spoke. "She's alive?" He looked around, and no one else had seen. The guards were gone, the square empty. His mind raced. Maybe it was only a dying reflex, or maybe it was something else. He remembered her strange necklace, a small crystal that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was gone now. The sky darkened as storm clouds rolled over the colony. Thunder echoed, and a single bolt of lightning struck the pole. Blue light flashed again, and the metal cracked slightly. Eli stumbled back, covering his face. When he looked again, a faint symbol glowed on the pole, one he had never seen before, alien and beautiful. Rain began to fall. He looked up at her one last time and whispered, "I'll bring you back. I promise." Then he turned and walked away into the storm, his shadow fading into the rain and firelight. Above him, lightning flashed again, and for a heartbeat, only a heartbeat, The symbol on the pole shone brighter, as if something inside was waking up. 3 days after the hanging, the colony returned to its quiet routine. The markets reopened, the guards smiled again, and the speakers on the walls played the same cold announcements about peace and purity. But Eli did not return to work. He sat alone in his small metal room, staring at the rain that slid down his window like tears from the sky. Everyone told him to move on. They said Lyra was gone. They said it was time to forget. But forgetting her felt like killing her again. Her voice still echoed in his head, those final words that no one else heard. "I'll come back." Eli couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face in the blue light, her eyes glowing one last time. He needed answers. So on the 4th night, when the streets were empty and the storm hid his footsteps, he went back to the square. The pole still stood there, blackened by lightning. The symbol he saw before was faint now, almost gone but not completely. He touched it and the metal felt warm under his fingers. For a second it pulsed softly like a heartbeat. He stepped back, breath caught in his chest. Maybe it wasn't just his imagination that night. Maybe Lyra was really trying to tell him something. He knew where to start. The colony's central archive held every communication, every record of every citizen. Access was restricted, but Eli was an engineer. He built the systems that protected it, so he knew how to break them. Under the cover of darkness, he moved through the service tunnels. His small flashlight cut through the dust and steam. Each sound made him freeze, the hiss of pipes, the distant hum of drones above. When he reached the metal door of the archive, his hand shook as he connected his override key. The screen blinked. Access denied, then blinked again. Access granted. He slipped inside. The room glowed with hundreds of data panels. He searched for her name. Lyra of Thalor. No results. He frowned. He tried again, this time searching the restricted files. Still nothing. It was like she had never existed. The government had erased her completely. He felt his stomach twist. Even her memory was being deleted. Then something caught his eye. A file labeled Project Silent Sky. It had no name tag, no date. Just a red warning sign. He opened it. Inside were reports, photos, transcripts, all about Lyra. His heart raced as he read the words. Subject captured. Emotional connection with human subject 342E, Eli Rane. Classified as contamination risk. Orders terminate publicly. Preserve body for study. He felt sick. She wasn't executed because she broke a law. She was executed because they were afraid of what she represented. Love between human and alien was not just forbidden. It was dangerous to their control. He scrolled down, his hands trembling. At the end of the report was a final note. Subject transferred to Division 9 for post-study containment, not disposal. His eyes widened. Containment meant alive. He opened another subfile. It was locked behind heavy encryption, but when he bypassed it, a single message appeared on screen. Just one line of text. If you are reading this, I'm still alive. The room went silent. He stared at the message, barely breathing. It was her. It had to be her. Lyra had left this message for him. Eli downloaded everything onto his wrist device and turned to leave. But then alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The security drones had found him. He ran through the corridors, heart pounding. Voices shouted behind him, orders echoing through the speakers. He jumped down the maintenance shaft, sliding fast and hitting the ground hard. His arm hurt, but he didn't stop. Outside, rain poured again. The colony lights glowed cold and distant. He hid behind a supply truck, catching his breath. His clothes were soaked, his mind racing. He didn't know how much of what he found was real. But one thing was clear now. The truth had been buried, and Lyra's death was a lie. He looked up at the stormy sky. The thunder rolled like a voice calling from above. Somewhere out there, maybe underground, maybe far beyond the colony walls, she was waiting. Eli stood, clutching the small data drive in his hand. His eyes were steady now. He knew what he had to do, forget her. No, he would find her, even if it meant going against the entire colony. The storm flashed again, and in that white light for just a second, he thought he saw her reflection in the rain, smiling the same soft, sad smile. He whispered, "I'm coming, Lyra," and then he vanished into the night. The night Eli escaped, the storm never stopped. It followed him like a living thing, lightning tearing through the sky while cold rain washed the dust off the metal roads. He kept walking until the colony lights disappeared behind him. Ahead, only darkness and the endless desert stretched under the twin moons. He didn't know where to go, but the message on his wrist device kept replaying in his mind. If you are reading this, I'm still alive. Every few minutes, he looked at the small blinking light on his wrist. It was weak, but it was there, a signal. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady, guiding him northwest toward the old communication zone. The place had been abandoned for years after the war. No one went there anymore. They said it was haunted by machines that still moved without power. Eli didn't care. If Lyra was out there, he would find her. The sand crunched under his boots as he reached the edge of the zone. Rusted towers leaned against the wind, cables snapped and hanging like old vines. A broken satellite dish pointed toward the stars. The whole area smelled of burnt metal. He entered the main control building, using his flashlight to see through the dust. Broken screens, shattered glass, and silence. But deep inside the static, his device started to beep faster. The signal was stronger here. He set his tools on the ground and opened an old power console. The circuits were dead, but Eli had built worse from nothing. With trembling fingers, he connected wires, bypassed fuses, and rerouted energy from his portable cell. The lights flickered once, then again. The main screen came alive, showing lines of static. Then a voice whispered through the noise. It was faint at first, almost just wind, but then he heard it clearly. "Eli, is that you?" His chest tightened. He froze, staring at the speaker. "Lyra?" he said softly. The voice trembled. "You came." He almost fell to his knees. "You're alive, I knew it. Where are you?" Static roared for a moment, then her voice returned, weaker this time. They put me below. The colony, under Division 9. Cryo, containment." He pressed the speaker. "Hold on, I'll find you. Just tell me how to reach you." But her signal broke again. The screen flashed with strange alien symbols. His heart raced as he tried to decode them. They looked like coordinates, but the last numbers were missing. He had no time to think because the door behind him slammed open. A drone floated in, red light scanning the room. He ducked behind the console. More drones followed, humming softly, their sensors searching. The government had found the signal too. Eli crawled toward the back door, holding his device close. One of the drones detected movement and fired a stun beam that hit the wall beside him. The sound echoed like thunder. He ran outside into the storm. The ground exploded behind him as the drones fired again. He ran until his legs burned. The rain hit harder, and wind howled through the towers. He jumped behind a pile of wreckage, breathing fast. His clothes were soaked, but his hand still gripped the device tightly. The signal was weak now, fading, but still alive. He listened carefully, and through the static, Lyra's voice whispered again. "Don't stop. They will come for you. Trust the light." Then the signal went silent. Eli looked up. "Trust the light." "What light?" Lightning flashed again, and in that moment he saw something strange. A faint blue glow far in the distance, like a heartbeat under the ground. It wasn't lightning. It was steady, rhythmic, almost alive. He knew what it meant. That was where she was. He stood, wiping the rain from his face. His legs were shaking, but his eyes burned with purpose. The colony wanted her erased, but he had found her voice. That was enough. He started walking toward the glowing horizon, every step heavier but stronger than the last. The storm roared behind him, drones searching the sky, but he didn't look back. Somewhere below that glow was Lyra, frozen between life and death, waiting. Somewhere down there was the truth about why they wanted her. "Gone," the wind whispered through. The broken towers as he disappeared into the dark. The screen on his wrist flickered one last time before turning black. It showed a single line before it died. "Find the heart of the machine." Eli stared at it, a strange calm filling his chest. He didn't know what it meant, but he would. Soon. The desert swallowed his figure as dawn began to rise again over New Terra. The desert was quiet when the sun rose again, soft light spilling over the endless sand. Eli had walked all night, following the faint blue glow that pulsed from beneath the ground. His clothes were dry now, but his body ached and his eyes burned with lack of sleep. He stopped at the edge of a cracked valley where the earth opened into a deep fracture. Down below, the glow was stronger, like veins of light running through the rock. He climbed down carefully, his hands gripping rough stone, his boots scraping against the walls. The air grew cooler the deeper he went. It smelled like metal and dust. At the bottom, he found a tunnel, a massive steel gate half buried in sand. On its surface, he saw the same alien symbol that had appeared on the pole the day Lyra was hung. It pulsed once when he touched it, recognizing something inside him. The gate slid open with a slow groan, revealing a dark passage filled with mist. Eli stepped inside. The tunnel was silent except for a low hum that came from deep within. His small flashlight revealed strange carvings on the walls, alien markings mixed with human numbers, like someone had tried to merge two languages. He felt a chill. Lyra had always said that their species were connected long before war ever began. Maybe this place was proof. As he walked deeper, the tunnel widened into a chamber filled with broken machines, rusted panels, shattered glass, and the faint echo of dripping water. In the center stood a console covered in dust. He brushed it clean and connected his wrist device. The screen blinked alive, showing the coordinates from Lyra's message. Beneath him, something moved. A soft vibration in the floor like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Then her voice came again, faint but clear. "Eli, you found it." He froze, eyes wide. "Lyra, where are you?" "Below the reactor core," her voice said. "They trapped me in containment. The cryopod is connected to the heart of this machine. If you open it, the system will wake up." "What system?" he asked. Silence. Then she whispered, "The one they fear." Eli took a breath and looked around. A ladder led further down into the dark. He started climbing, every step echoing softly. The air grew colder and faint blue mist rose around him. When he reached the bottom, he found a huge chamber filled with old alien pods, hundreds of them cracked and empty. In the center was one still working, glowing softly. Inside it was Lyra. Her face looked peaceful, eyes closed, light pulsing faintly from her chest. The same light that had glowed from her eyes the night she was hung. He placed his hand on the glass. "I'm here," he whispered. The pod scanned his hand and beeped. A small screen flashed DNA mismatch. Then it changed to override possible. He pulled out his tools and started working. Sparks flew as he rewired the controls. The sound of footsteps echoed above. Metal boots, voices shouting. The guards had followed him. He worked faster. The screen flashed access granted. The pod began to open, air hissing as cold vapor escaped. Lyra's hand moved first, then her eyes slowly opened. They glowed bright blue, soft and alive. "Eli," she said weakly. "You shouldn't have come." He smiled, breath shaking. "You knew I would." Before she could answer, the chamber lights flickered red. A voice came from the speakers, the same commander who had ordered her death. "Unauthorized breach detected. Containment failure. Terminate both subjects." Eli helped Lyra stand. She was weak but alive. Alarms wailed as drones entered from above. Energy blasts hit the walls, scattering dust. Eli grabbed her hand and ran toward the maintenance shaft. They climbed together as explosions shook the tunnel. Above them, the gate was closing again. Eli pushed her up first, his muscles screaming. When he reached the top, he turned and fired his plasma cutter at the control panel, jamming the door shut behind them. They stumbled into the sunlight, breathing hard. The sky was turning dark again, storm clouds gathering fast. Lyra looked at him, her silver skin glowing faintly in the light. "You don't understand," she said. "They didn't build that place to contain me. They built it to contain what I awakened." He looked at her, confused. "What did you awaken?" She turned toward the horizon where the desert seemed to shimmer like glass. "Something that remembers," she whispered. Before he could ask more, a low rumble shook the ground. The sand began to move, glowing lines spreading like roots beneath their feet. Clara gripped his hand. "The heart of the machine," she said. "It's waking up." Eli stared as the blue glow rose from the cracks in the earth, lighting the storm above. Whatever was buried here was not just a machine. It was alive, and it had heard her call. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the blue light spread across the desert like veins of fire. Eli held Lyra's hand tight while the air shimmered with strange energy. The storm above turned darker, clouds twisting like smoke drawn into the sky. Lyra's hair moved in the wind, glowing faintly under the pulsing light. She looked both alive and not, like something half dream and half memory. Eli tried to speak, but his voice barely came out. "What's happening, Lyra?" She looked toward the horizon where the sand was lifting in waves. "It's remembering me," she said softly. "The heart of the machine. It was made to protect my kind, but the humans feared its power, so they buried it and used it to control both worlds." He didn't understand, but her voice held a calm that scared him. She touched the sand, and the light followed her fingers like it knew her. They changed history, she said. They made people forget the truth about us. Eli stepped closer. What truth? Lyra turned to him slowly. That we were never from different worlds. We were one species once, the Thalor and the humans, two halves of the same creation. Eli felt his heart skip. That can't be true, she smiled faintly. It is. The council erased that knowledge to keep the two races divided. They needed war to keep control. But the heart of the machine remembers everything. It was built by our ancestors to heal the bond between our kinds. The storm grew louder. In the distance, the colony's defense ships were rising into the sky. They had detected the energy surge. Lyra's eyes flashed with a mix of fear and determination. They will come to destroy this place, she said. We must reach the core before they do. Once it wakes completely, it will rewrite everything. History, memory, even blood. Eli shook his head. Rewrite blood? Lyra nodded. The machine can blend us again. No human, no alien, just one. Eli felt the weight of her words. It sounded impossible, but everything about this place already was. He followed her as she moved toward the glowing cracks in the ground. The light opened a path that led down into the earth. Together they descended again, this time not into silence but into the hum of something alive. The tunnel opened into a giant chamber brighter than before. The walls pulsed with light like a living heart. At the center stood a crystal pillar rising high into the dark. Inside it flowed streams of liquid energy that moved like thought itself. Lyra stepped forward slowly. The pillar responded to her presence, the light bending around her as if greeting her after a long sleep. Eli watched as she placed her hand on the surface. Images flashed in his mind. Cities floating above oceans, humans and Thalor living together, stars filled with laughter and song. Then came fire, war, separation, and silence. He staggered back, overwhelmed by the visions. Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter now. It's showing you the past, she said. What was taken from us? He tried to steady himself. Why me? Because you still believe in love, she said. That's what connects us. That's what they can't erase. Above them, an explosion echoed through the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling. The soldiers were here. Lyra looked up, calm but firm. They're going to shut it down. If that happens, everything will vanish again. Even me, Eli's heart pounded. Tell me what to do. She stepped closer, her hand touching his chest. You have human blood, but the heart accepts both. Only we together can wake it fully. He nodded without hesitation. Their hands joined on the crystal surface. The light flared, so bright it filled every shadow. The energy poured through them both. Pain, joy, memory, everything at once. He saw her past, she saw his. Two lives, two worlds blending into one. The soldiers broke through the gate but froze at the sight before them. Eli and Lyra were surrounded by blinding light. Their forms seemed to fade, edges glowing blue and gold. Lyra whispered through the light, her voice steady. Now you see, Eli. Love was never forbidden. It was the key. The ground shook violently, the pillar cracked open, releasing a storm of energy that shot into the sky. The desert above blazed like a star. Then everything went white. When the light faded, the chamber was empty. The soldiers stood in silence, staring at the place where the two had stood. The machine had gone quiet again, but the blue glow still pulsed faintly, like a heart still beating. And above, the sky was no longer storming. It was clear, calm, and full of light. The world was not the same after the light. For hours, the desert glowed blue, and the colony's power systems failed one by one. Communication towers went dark, engines stopped, and the sky over New Terra shimmered with strange colors like dawn and dusk mixed together. People came out of their homes looking up at the glowing clouds, afraid and curious. Deep beneath the ground in the ruins of the chamber, Eli opened his eyes. His head was heavy, his breath slow. The air smelled of dust and energy. The place was quiet now. The crystal pillar that had once burned like a star was broken, its shards glowing faintly around him. He looked beside him and saw Lyra lying still. For a moment his heart froze. Then she opened her eyes. They were no longer just blue. They shimmered with gold and silver, like two suns reflecting each other. She breathed slowly and whispered, "It worked." Eli helped her sit up. "What worked?" She smiled softly. "The merge. The heart connected us, you and me, human and Thalor. It chose to remember through us. He felt different too. His skin hummed faintly with the same light. When he touched his face, he could feel warmth moving under the surface like something alive. Above them, explosions echoed. The soldiers were still trying to reach the core, but the tunnels had changed. The walls had shifted, sealing the paths. The machine was protecting them. Lyra stood, her voice calm. They will come for us again. The council cannot allow what we've become. Eli looked at her, a strange calm in his eyes. Then we show them the truth. They climbed out of the ruins, moving through the tunnels until they reached the open desert again. The air was cool now. The storm was gone, replaced by quiet light that flowed across the horizon like the first day of a new world. In the distance, the colony's defense ships hovered low, their engines humming softly. The soldiers waited for orders. Eli and Lyra walked together toward the colony gates. People saw them coming, two figures glowing faintly, hand in hand. Whispers spread quickly. Some stepped back in fear, others simply stared in awe. When they reached the main square, the same place where Lyra had been hung, everything stopped. The wind, the voices, even the drones in the sky. Eli looked around at the crowd that had once watched her die. Their faces were different now, mixed with fear and shame. Lyra spoke, her voice gentle but strong. You were told that love between our kinds was poison. That peace was impossible. But they lied to you. They built walls of hate to keep you blind. Look at me and see the truth. She raised her hand and a beam of soft light spread from her palm. It touched the people nearest to her and they gasped. Memories filled their minds. Visions of the old world, of humans and Thaler living together, of a time before fear. Eli spoke next, his voice steady. The council erased our history because they feared what unity could do. But the heart of the machine remembers. And now so do we. Above them, the council ship appeared, dark and massive, blocking the sun. A voice came from the speakers, cold and angry. Cease your actions or you will be destroyed. Lyra looked up at the ship. They still don't understand, she said. They think fear can silence truth. She turned to Eli. The tower. If we reach it, we can send the signal to every colony in the galaxy. They will all see. Eli nodded. They ran toward the old signal tower outside the colony. Drones followed, firing bursts of plasma that lit the sky. Eli dodged between burning wrecks while Lyra moved with a strange grace, her light deflecting the blasts. They reached the base of the tower as the ship's shadow grew larger above them. The tower was broken, but the heart's energy pulsed through the ground, feeding into it. Eli climbed the ladder, connecting his wrist device to the transmitter. Lyra stood below, holding off the drones with waves of blue light. The voice from the ship thundered again. You cannot change the law of blood. Eli shouted, then we'll make a new one. He pressed the final switch. The tower flared bright white, sending a beam into the sky that split the clouds and reached beyond the planet. Across the galaxy, every screen, every system, every broadcast showed the truth. Lyra's image, her words, her light. The people of New Terra fell silent, watching as the sky changed. The council ship tried to stop the signal, but the machine's power overwhelmed it. The engines burned out, the ship fell, and the sound of its crash echoed across the plains. Lyra looked up at the spreading light and whispered, It's done. They can't hide us anymore. Eli turned to her. What happens now? She smiled faintly. Now they remember, and remembering is the beginning of change. The wind moved gently through the square as the light faded into the dawn. For the first time in generations, the people of New Terra stood together, human and Thalor, no longer enemies but witnesses of truth. And in the quiet that followed, Eli and Lyra stood hand in hand, the heart of the machine still beating softly within them both. The sun rose over New Terra, brighter than anyone had ever seen. The air was calm and clean, and the sky carried a soft golden light that shimmered across the desert. The warships were gone, their wreckage buried under the sand. The sound of battle had ended. For the first time in many years there was silence, the kind that carried hope. People walked through the colony streets slowly, as if waking from a long dream. Screens that once played orders from the council now showed images of the light, of Lyra and Eli standing together at the tower. The words "one origin, one future" flashed across every display. No one understood it completely yet, but something deep inside them did. Something old had awakened in everyone's heart. Eli and Lyra stood at the edge of the colony, looking at the sky. The light of the machine had faded from their skin, but its pulse still lived quietly inside them. They could feel it like a shared heartbeat. The world was healing, but the war was not truly over. They will come again, Eli said softly. The other colonies, the ones still under the council. Lyra nodded. Yes, but this time they will come with questions, not weapons. The truth spreads faster than fear. He smiled, tired but certain. Then we'll be ready. For days they helped rebuild the city. Humans and Thaler worked side by side, fixing what had been destroyed. The old walls that once divided them were torn down. Children of both races played together, their laughter echoing through the broken streets. It was a small beginning, but it was real. At night, when the stars came out, Eli would sit with Lyra near the old signal tower. The tower still glowed faintly, like an ember refusing to die. Do you think they'll remember us? He asked one evening. Lyra smiled at the horizon. Maybe, but remembering is not the point. What matters is that they remember themselves. Her words stayed in his mind. They both knew their time was running short. The merge that had awakened the machine also changed them. Their bodies were not entirely human or Thaler anymore. The energy inside them grew weaker each day. They didn't speak about it, but both could feel it. One morning, Eli woke to find Lyra gone. He searched the colony, calling her name, but no one had seen her. Then he saw her footprints in the sand leading toward the desert. He followed them until he reached the valley where everything began, the place where the machine had first awakened. Lyra stood there in the sunlight, her hair moving like silver fire. She turned and smiled at him. The heart is calling, she said. It needs to rest. And so do we. He felt his throat tighten. You mean leave? She nodded. Not die, change, return to where it all began. The light will stay. It always does. Eli looked down at the glowing sand. Then I'll go with you. Lyra stepped closer, placing her hand on his chest. You already have. The heart remembers both of us. Wherever it shines, we will be. The ground began to hum softly, the same sound that had filled the air the day the machine awakened. Light rose from the cracks, wrapping around them gently. Eli looked into her eyes one last time. We started a new world, he said. She smiled. No. We reminded it of what it already was. The light grew brighter until it swallowed them completely. The wind blew across the valley, scattering the sand, and when it settled, there was no one there. Only a faint blue glow under the ground, beating like a slow heart. Years passed. The colony changed, cities grew, and the story of the human and the alien who loved each other became legend. People called them the Children of Light. No one was sure if they were real or myth, but the world they built was real enough. One evening, a little girl walked with her father near the old tower. She looked up at the sky where two stars shone side by side. Papa, is it true? She asked. Did they really love each other? Her father smiled and nodded. Yes, and because they did, we are here. The girl looked up again, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Do you think they can see us? Her father didn't answer, but far beyond the stars, in a place where time had no meaning, two lights pulsed together, one blue, one gold, moving in rhythm with the heart of a living universe. And in that endless silence, a voice whispered softly through the stars, love never ends, it only changes shape.